GangsterBet is Icon's next generation NFT collectibles of 5,555 gangsters and detectives, with changeable names and stats. Holders of GangsterBet NFTs receive daily distributions of GBet tokens. GBet can be used to upgrade their NFT skills and stats. The supply of GBet will decrease over time and will stop after 9 years. Holding GangsterBet NFTs will have opportunities for future airdrops and will give you access to GangsterBet's highly anticipated metaverse. Learn more at gangsterbet.io. Shout out to our sponsors at IconBet. Open source, decentralized gaming, no deposits, play straight from your wallet. IconBet, made by the players, for the players. Eye on Icon is proudly supported by Icon Nation and the Icon community. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Eye on Icon, where we go around the ecosystem and get you the latest and greatest news. And with me, as always, is Iconographer, or should I say Iconographer? You know, just because the markets are tanking, man, and apparently if I say a name in a particular way, it could reverse fortunes. How are you today?
It's like saying Beetlejuice 3 times or something like that.
Exactly. Come on, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, it's, unfortunately, we didn't really have any news this week, so this will probably be the end of the episode. But we'll see you guys next week.
Take care.
Yeah.
Good
pretty big. One of the bigger news weeks in recent history, at least as far as I can remember. A good chunk of stuff. Obviously, we'll go into it a little bit, but certainly, I think a lot of good news. They got everyone excited. Of course, it happened when we were in a downtrend, which seems to be just the ongoing fate of ICX, but it is what it is. But obviously, certainly makes things brighter for the longer term. So we'll get into that. Obviously, mainly, in the interoperability incentive fund, and also the Algorand partnership announcement. Obviously, some other good stuff too. But certainly not a quiet week.
Yeah, no, agree. So much, it's. I feel so much has happened that when we were getting ready for the news in the background, obviously the big news is incentive. I felt we'd covered it already, or we've done an episode.
I had the same. Yeah, I had the same problem. I was kind of like, was that like 2 weeks ago, or was that 3 weeks ago? And then I said, oh no, it was less than a week ago, because it was last Friday, at least my time. I think your Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. Woke up to the good news. But okay, look, before we dive into that, let's do our usual. Let's talk markets. I think we had an interesting conversation just before recording. Come in, and it's not. I've got Bitcoin up at the moment, and it's not looking good. You had a good analysis, I felt. Do you want to talk through that, Iconographer? Because
right now it's almost predictably just super correlated to at least the U.S. stock market. I assume broader markets as well, which is annoying. But also, I don't know, sometimes it just happens. There were times, obviously, when we went to like 69K, I think both markets were in an uptrend. But obviously, Bitcoin went way faster, and the overall crypto market went way faster than the stock market. But it is just funny how, I think I woke up before the market opened. I woke up and Bitcoin was doing pretty well, and then the market did pretty well, and it was kind of like, all right, which one's, does everyone out there just know the market's going to do well, so Bitcoin does well? And then, sentiment on Twitter, everyone was saying, we just need a break. I think we were like getting close to 44 or something like that, and everyone's saying, they're here. It was just a clear momentum and sentiment. Everyone was very happy. I went about my day, had some things to take care of, come back and check things, and the stock market had reversed itself, turned to red, and then sure enough, crypto had as well. My Twitter timeline's having like a meltdown right now. All the traders I follow said they got stopped out of everything they were doing. So I think we're still like mostly in that that just kind of low 40s range we've been in. We might be getting a little bit maybe dangerously close to hitting below 40, but even then, we haven't really fallen too far. So I kind of see it as just still being the range, but just the emotional highs and lows that people had today were just interesting to watch, and just especially both in terms of crypto and the whole market as a whole. So it's kind of frustrating. I just kind of sit there. It's like, all right, whatever the market's going to do, Bitcoin's going to do until something changes. And especially right now, especially when we're in a just a general sideways trading trend, which we've been for like, I don't know, 2 months now or something like that, basically.
Yeah.
It's not, there's not a lot that could happen. And basically the only thing tugging on it is essentially the market. So until there's something seismic that happens, like, not saying fundamentally, but I guess fundamentally within the market, whether it's, sometimes sometimes it feels like a news story does it. And sometimes it'll just like, you'll just wake up and all of a sudden there's a huge green candle, and it just sometimes happens. So until we get something like that, we're going to be, I think, continue in the boring zone for the immediate future.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, when I'm looking at BTC at the moment, we've got a trend going. Trend is your friend. So in October 2020, and this is a very last resort trend, and it touched in July 21, and it's been lingering, just banging on it, and at the moment it's broken that trend. Anyway, let's see how this goes. But overall, I don't know. Even on chainers, I noticed a lot of on chainers start making playful jokes. Well, if we've entered a bear market and but they're not giving analysis here or there as to what exactly is happening, or maybe I've just dropped off a little bit and cross-checking what they're saying. That's probably it. But yeah, look, BTC is not looking good at the moment. ICX, shall we go there? Okay, yeah, also broken that
I mean,
trend.
it's just, yeah. Well, it's just, again, BTC follows the markets, alts follow BTC. So yeah, I mean, to the extent you can do technical analysis on ICX, sure. I guess there's just, maybe I'm jaded, but there's just been way too many times where people have said, "Oh, we broke out of this channel," or
Yeah,
we're gonna go up, or "Oh, ICX chart looks good," and then Bitcoin crashes, and then everything falls apart, or Bitcoin pumps, and then we catch up, or whatever it is. So
yeah.
at this point, it's just whatever the macro happens is probably what the micro happens, at least in the short term. But obviously, still bullish on based on all the good news and everything like that. I'm not really looking day to day as much. I'm more focused on well, it's cheap. Trying to pick up as much as I still possibly can.
Yep. Great. No, look, I don't think we need to spend more time on markets. We've woken up. It looked rosy, but it's turned gloomy. It's reacting to exactly what the stock markets are doing. Let's see how this settles, and we'll come back next week with a reassessment. Let's markets tend to bring out the worst in terms of the vibe out there. So let's change it up, because we've had so much good news. I think this week, if it was a different market coming back to markets, the amount of news that dropped and the type of news would have had a huge reaction to price, etc. But let's celebrate some of the huge accomplishments. What's the first thing we've got?
Well, I think just the 200 million ICX interoperability incentive program. This got announced, as we said, late last week. Basically, I think so there's been a few of these that have come out over the months. Near did 150 million to like do a Web3 stuff. Harmony, they did 300 million back in September. Obviously, those two are future or immediate BTP partners. So that's why they're relevant. But also, I remember Phantom had a similar announcement in August, I think. Avalanche around the same time. So again, the difference there was, that's when the market was really heating back up. August, it was starting to move into the uptrend, and then it got really, really good in October. And a portion of November, I think. So their timing was pretty good as far as market's concerned. So a lot of these tokens really started moving a pretty good amount. I think Phantom was at still like in the 30s or 40 cents when this happened, and it ended up going to like $3.45. So again, if the timing's right and you catch it at the right time in the market, it can be kind of advantageous from that standpoint. But so narrative wise, there's clearly a move towards doing these types of funds and things like that. And so it's not really. It's nice to see Icon get on that. I don't want to call it a bandwagon, but hop onto that, because it makes things way more competitive. So being part of that competition, having skin in the game with that large amount of funds is always good. I think obviously what's unique about this is a fund dedicated entirely to interoperability. Basically trying to incentivizing people to build things that work cross chain, and then also incentivizing users to kind of participate in cross chain activities, kind of broadly speaking. So it hits those two marks. So obviously, I think on its own, BTP is going to pick up a lot of adoption, but this is a nice nudge further in that direction. And all a lot of these other funds were dedicated more towards kind of internal, building, helping DeFi builder, luring people to build DeFi or build or lure liquidity onto, Phantom or Avalanche or whatever it is. Whereas this is much more of a, hey, if you're conducting cross-chain activity, that's where the incentives lie in this one, which is obviously, if you're building a cross-chain protocol, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah, I agree. And look, it's huge. I mean, I always do the math, right? Like, oh, if this was announced at this time when it was this, it would have been this big of an incentive. But yeah, it's you ask the community this: should an announcement be timed just because the market's pumping? I completely disagree. It needs to be announced when it's ready, when people can actually come in and all the processes are set up and ask for the grants. And the tech itself has to be ready. So when people are coming to explore, they're not being told, "Hey, wait a minute, come back in 6 months." They won't come back. The industry is moving at such a quick pace. So this is great. It came out when it's ready. It is very much around interoperability. It is about fast tracking it and focused around adopting BTP and utilizing. So it's not just build a bridge, connect your chain, and be done with it. It's actually the opposite. More money is for actually utilizing the blockchain transmission protocol. And remember, one of the things we haven't seen, and I reckon we will start seeing, is the push of the value add for Icon/ICX. How much more valuable does it make ICX as more adoption, more actual use of the Pro BTP has an impact to Icon. And Icongraph has actually written some stuff around it and really called it out, which we know. And with the new fee structure, we're starting to see just internally these transactions that now we're getting averaging, is it per day now? We're close to 200,000 Icongrapher regularly.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close to that. So it's burning around close to 1,000 ICX. So now BTP, all that compounds, that ICX burn fast tracks. This is not taking into account the auction stuff that goes into CPS and gets burnt. So look, you can start to see, like, if you're focusing on markets, it's doom and gloom, but you can start to see all the mechanisms that are being put in place, that when we start getting our flagship product adopted, it will have a ripple effect for ICX holders as a whole. But as I was
going to note, as of yesterday's, so this is from Transcranial, 150,000 total transactions and 219,000 total events, including transactions.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Yeah. No, so that's great. Now, if and that's the point, which is good. Now, lastly, if you haven't, I really encourage you, and I am going to put this in the show notes. Got wind of this and went around the grounds very quickly. Thank you to Elise, who I was hounding, and she set up some interviews with everyone for me. And I quickly asked very similar questions around this incentive program. And if you haven't listened to it, please do. Like, what came out very clearly was it's not about building on Icon. That's what we have CPS for, okay? The incentive program is all around, as I said, adopting and using the tech and providing liquidity in the areas for protocols so that they use the tech, basically. They use BTP in the background, so the liquidity is incentivized thanks to the incentive program. They've allocated so much money. But what I really loved, and I don't know, Icongraph, if you listened to it, but Scott, he kind of, I had this aha moment again, because when I was telling him, which chain do you want to lure in, or I phrased something to him along that lines, and his answer was like, it's I just wanted the more chains that get adopted, it gives devs the choice to build the apps wherever they want. So they don't need to come to Icon. If where BTP is integrated into various chains, they can look at it and go, you know what, I may actually build it on Avalanche today because it's less congested. It's just like Ethereum. I've already got some code for an existing dApp. I'll just fork it across. Yada yada yada, and it indirectly is still benefiting Icon. And that was really cool to hear because, yeah, that's awesome. It's like, it doesn't matter where you build, just build. It gives everyone the option to do what they do best. I'll stop there. I talked a lot.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, and of course, sure enough, like anytime there's any news, there's some people who always look at the bad, like they try to immediately kind of look at good news and say, where's the bad news in here? And some of it was basically like, oh, great, here's 200 million ICX going to get dumped on the market, which is like, they're almost like, oh, yeah, it's bearish if people are actually using your chain, right? Because if the incentives get paid out, it means people are actually utilizing the cross-chain capabilities. And so, like, to sit there and be like, oh, yeah, this is bad because it's like, at the end of the day, kind of like, what's the point? Like, it's just clearly all about price, and without recognizing that, if people are using the chain, if people are using your protocol, that's what's going to drive the price to go up. Like go look at why Binance Chain or BNB went so up. Look at why Avalanche went up. Look at why Phantom went up. It's because everyone's actually using these protocols and things like that. Look at why Solana went up. It's all about demand at the end of the day. And so don't focus as much on the tokenomics. Focus on is this activity or action or whatever it is going to over the long term increase the number of people utilizing this chain, this protocol, whatever it is. And if the answer is yes, then it's good.
Yeah, you couldn't have put it better myself. Yeah, completely agree. Yes, there's hype and this and that, but at the end of the day, like the chain has stuff going on, which is then reflected in value, right? And this is where even Harmony, like, yeah, the incentive program, but they come back much later post the announcement of the incentive program because DeFi Kingdoms, they've had a couple of smash hit dApps that have made people turn to it and move. So what's cool about this incentive, again, drilling this home, is any chain that adopts it and then utilizes it to move assets between not Icon, any of the connected BTP chains, that is our winning formula, and that is the value add, which is so cool because the more the network expands and the more dApps that jump on it what is it? It's that one dApp that hits mainstream. Like for Avalanche, there were a few, but when Wonderland and Time came into the picture, a lot of people went in and aped into that, including myself, on the correction, mind you. But you see what I mean? So all of a sudden, if they're utilizing BTP as the bridge, and any of these chains that have these dApps that utilizes it in the background has a bit of a smash hit and gets traction, it doesn't matter if Icon's not involved. Our tech is involved in the background. Indirectly, our tokenomics are being impacted. It's the final finality is coming from our chain, which is awesome. Like, anyway, we could do an hour on this IconGraph. I have so much I want to say around this, but it's good. And IconGraph, in one of our chats, you were mentioning because let's talk about it next. So we've seen this. This is the fun. This is great news. Finally, if you haven't watched that interview, really one of the standouts as well. The Min's on there, so you get to hear his views. And right at the end, I interviewed TJ, and it's a very interesting conversation. We drift off into different things and start talking about CPS, and it's really, especially if you follow the CPS and how projects get funded, I encourage you to listen to that. It's always good picking TJ's brain and understanding how he ticks and some of the thoughts around the ideas he puts forward. So I enjoyed that chat as well. So definitely give it a listen. But the next bit of news that we had, and this was wave after wave. So we announced a program, then Algorand Foundation comes in with a right hook. Do you want to talk us through it?
So in a lot of these, I guess big picture, Algorand essentially has a grant program that have been issued in order to help build out BTP, build a BTP partnership between Icon and Algorand. Algorand is one of the more it's kind of up there with those other chains that have done well, that didn't exist in 2017, 18, came about in the bear market and have done pretty well and gotten a lot of attention. I think it's in the top 30 as far as market cap, if I recall correctly. So certainly not some small little dinky chain, off in the hinterlands of crypto land or something like that.
Mm.
What was nice about this one too is they were the ones who announced it, and clearly with a lot of excitement behind it. So that was nice to see. A lot of these is kind of we mention it, or we meaning Icon mentions it, and it doesn't. It's I don't think it matters that much who necessarily announces it, other than the fact that I think when it comes from the other chain, it kind of fires up their community a little bit more, and it kind of
Mm.
gets a bit more eyeballs on it. So I think that was certainly good to see. They did a really good announcement as well. It's very thorough, explains the technology pretty well. So just another nice little piece on the BTP. The roster of BTP partners, and so it's certainly growing. I see like a list of it, and it's like it used to be just be it was like Binance, Near, and Harmony or something like that a few months ago, and now obviously you have Polkadot, you have the various Polkadot chains, like Moonriver, or sorry, Moonriver and Moonbeam, and obviously Ice and Snow fit into that as well. But now we have Algorand as well to add to that list. So it continues to grow, and continues to grow with quality, other quality networks as well.
Look, and Icongraph, how often have we heard you see tweets and stuff? Well, why aren't our partners talking about it, etc., etc. I think this is a great example. Okay, well, here you go. Our partner isn't just talking about it; they're kind of throwing money at it, going, "This is the solution we want." So,
Right.
which is cool as well. So, I thought this is two big news pieces that hit us, and I didn't expect them to drop so soon. Hit us with wave after wave, so that was good to see. Okay. What else have we got?
So I think we talked about this a little bit. I can't remember one way or another, but the voting has happened on the, I guess it's BIP16,
Hmm.
the borrower and BALN. I'm sorry, let me make sure I have the.
Is this for the borrowing, enhancing the borrowing experience?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is one that's been floating around for a little bit. Basically, more borrower rewards, increased loan to value, lower origination fees, and a large stability fund. So this is something that got voted on relatively recently, and it did pass 91% to 8%, with about half the people voting. So just improves the overall borrower experience. I think this gets a little bit more relevant too when you can factor in the fact that Optimus, one of the strategies there is the borrower strategy. So certainly nice, certainly nice improvement for balance. I think we talked about this a little bit last time, but just want to confirm that it did get voted into place.
Mm.
And so if you're looking to borrow or have been borrowing or whatever, overall there's a few factors there that'll make the process a little more pleasant.
Yep. No, it's good. Balance is kicking goals. The rebalancing hasn't been as bad. Well, we had a bit of rebalancing the other way for a change, which was good to see. But yeah, I don't want to look. I don't know. I said I'd never take out a loan. I took out a loan again. Oh god, what have I done? So now I've been ignoring it. Like I can ignore it because I take out a loan with a liquidation of like 12 cents, so I'm always playing it safe. But yeah, anyway, okay. Next up,
Yeah. One of the things. So one of the things I noticed. Well, I noticed this a while back with home,
mm,
and I was kind of so. Obviously we have the new markets um, for BALN and for Ohm tokens. Um, they there there's you can supply and borrow for balance for BALN, but you can't borrow for Ohm. And I was kind of wondering, I don't know if there's been prior discussion on this or not, but I just thought it was interesting that you can't necessarily borrow it. I guess I kind of wondered is so there's the part of it where um, so on one hand I've seen other protocols say we don't want you to borrow our governance token because it gives people an ability to effectively short it.
Mm.
And so I don't know if for the actual mechanics of shorting is essentially you borrow in the stock market, you borrow a stock, you then immediately sell it, and then you hope it goes down, and then you can buy it back and then return it, and then obviously the money difference in between is essentially your profit. That's basically what shorting is. And so there, I could see like, oh, we don't want to give people the ability to borrow it and then hope it falls or FUD it or whatever, and then turn a profit on it. I guess the other part of it too is it can, I think it would be, there's some protocols out there like that allow you to borrow a governance token for something like that for another protocol, so that way you can, you can use it in order to either boost rewards or I think in this case the use case would be it allows people to like beef up their own because the way it works is the amount of ohm you have staked is what determines your ability to vote for P-reps and things like that, which can influence rewards and everything like that. So theoretically people could like borrow ohm, stake it, and then get the benefits of they could beef up their governance power. And I guess the one argument is like, yeah, well, we don't want people kind of like having necessary governance over something they don't actually own that they're just borrowing. But at the same time, if it gives your token a kind of unique use case,
Mm.
and it's all just because they own it on a given day, they can just sell it the next day or something like that. So just because they own it doesn't necessarily mean they have a long term stake in it necessarily. So this is kind of one thing I was wondering. I don't know. Again, I could have totally missed out on some discussion or something like that. But just like one of those things I think about it, kind of like what's a creative way that Ohm as a protocol could behave differently or things like that. And that's just one of those things I kind of noticed.
No, it's a good one. I actually, I don't know what it is. When it comes to Ohm, I get up in arms when I see changes I disagree with, and I get into the Discord and I ask these questions. And apologies, I come across as rude. I don't mean to be, just passionate. And actually, when asking this question, because it didn't make sense to me, especially that what you said, I can go for or if they could vote. In my eyes, so what? I mean, that is what creates the borrow slash supply slash loan rate, right? The utility of the value it adds is what will create the reason why people will want to borrow it and use it however they see fit. So I don't quite agree with it, but apparently this is the norm. I was schooled, thanks to Arush, who very nicely schooled me, obviously. But this is so. Aave and things, many other protocols, their utility token, they only have in the supply side. You can't actually borrow it. News to me. I think it. Yeah, I still stand by it to feel like it's like, well, then why even put it in the supply? What's like what I don't
And
agree.
I guess the one theory would be, well, that way it locks, people, if you can give people a little bit of incentive to kind of quote unquote lock it by supplying it, maybe it takes some pressure off the market or whatever.
But
But well, I was about to say, like, we already have staking on Ohm
exactly.
anyway, so if people want to lock their tokens, they can. And also, at the end of the day, if people want to sell, like, I don't know, the whole idea of staking over time, I've kind of gone back and forth this. I feel like the whole idea of staking where it's like off the market, if people feel their investment isn't going to make a long-term difference, like either they're staking it or they're holding it, right? If they
Mm.
want to sell it, they're just going to sell it. And
Yep.
like they'll take the 5 minutes to unstake it or 5 days or whatever it is and just say like, I don't believe in this investment anymore, I'm going to dump it. Whereas just because it's like the people who are staking, they're holding anyway. So staking itself, like obviously it creates additional value or things like that. But a lot of the times, I've never quite understood it. I think in the grand scheme of icons of ICX's tokenomics for voting for P-reps and stuff,
Mm.
it's more of like compensation for governance. But the whole idea of like staking, just like, yeah, just stick it there and we'll give you 100% APY or whatever. So sometimes I kind of wonder, is that just ultimately like is that just creating needless inflation for something that doesn't really add a lot of value to a protocol necessarily?
You're right. So I think so. In this case, you enable a supply market if there's no borrow, well, how's it earning interest? Okay, so the distribution is being amended to pay for that supply. Well, that's kind of defeating the purpose. What's that doing? Then just increase the supply ratio on staking, so it's more lucrative to stake.
And it means it's diluting other areas also.
Exactly. So I'm lost there, but apparently there's a reason, and that's fine. The other aspect with staking, I think you make an interesting point because I understand from a layer one perspective the importance of staking. Yeah. We know it's securing the network and
Right.
etc. But as time has gone, what we're seeing is there are more steps being put in place to make that staked asset liquid again through wrapped SICX. Like in every chain has its own variations, and those variations are growing, splitting, the yield component of that chained asset so that it is tradable and can be moved around in an instant. So overall, I think if you're directing inflation to staking, it's kind of what's the point? But if there's fees coming in to the holders, I should say, that's a good thing. But that need to stake, I feel like it's as time goes on, that will personally, I think it'll become a redundant feature for dApps because. Well, let's look at and we're going to talk about Karma DAO, but let's look at DeFi 2.0, right? Ohm and time. The mechanics are work where you give them an asset, they issue you a bond, which is their native token time. You get that at a discounted rate. When it's come to fruition after the 5 days, you have two options: sell it for the 10% profit if the market value is held, or stake it. And when you stake it, every time the treasury gets more money, it mints new time and distributes those times to the stakers. That's why you have this insane APY. But as these protocols have evolved, when the asset is staked, it's staked. You can't do anything with it. But they've now all gone and created wrapped versions of the staked asset that automatically grows in value every time the staking rewards are distributed. And then you can take this wrapped asset and take it into DeFi and borrow off it. So you see what I'm getting at? But these protocols have moved from the need to stake to get your rewards to, well, we've got this asset that's worth a lot of money. It's generating a lot of money, but it's locked in our ecosystem and no one can do anything with it. Well, what do? We need to remove the staking component from it so that users can take their assets to different protocols, but still have, keep that yield that they get from staking with it. You see the point I'm trying to make, right, IconFi? Even these protocols that work this way are kind of evolving out of the staking mechanic. But so I feel
and even our own. I can't remember if you mentioned that, but even our own SICX is kind of similar to that. It's trying to liquefy what should have been a locked, but it is a locked asset.
Bingo! This is just it. That SICX is an exact example. So when people go, "Oh, what's in OHM wrapped this," they don't understand the relationship. A lot of Iconists should, because we have SICX. It's essentially what SICX does. Every day in staking, rewards get paid into SICX and it grows in value. That's what a lot of those DeFi 2.0 wrapped stake tokens are. So. My point is, like, the idea of staking to me starts to feel a bit more redundant because as soon as it's staked, people are trying to create a wrap version that is liquid again. So it's like, well, then why stake it? Apart from the layer one. Anyway, interesting. Good discussion, man. I think I'm with you. I think if you're going to protect, I always come back down to this, like, but we don't want to short Ohm if that's the argument, then I think, well, it's a real shame that a lot of the other protocols aren't getting to make the same argument if that's what we're leading with. But as noted, this seems to be happening across the board, so it's not something that Ohm's doing, it's something that majority of the money markets are doing.
Yep.
Okay.
So Craft had a pretty big week, which obviously the NFT marketplace on Icon. I guess you could start looking at, so just the token price itself, CFT. For a while there, it was like I don't know, it was hovering a pretty low price. When I think it was when they announced that staking would be coming soon, it really started to move. It kind of immediately shot up to like, I don't know, 1 or 2 cents or something like that. And then over the course of a few days, climbed all the way. I think I saw it peak at like 13 cents or something like that. It's since come back down. I don't know if that's because of, it just went up really quick, or if maybe just the overall crypto kind of downturn recently, recently meaning like in the last 24 hours, or I guess 12 hours, or if it was, if it, like I said, it's around, I think last I saw it was around 8 cents or so, which is still, obviously way higher than it was 3 weeks ago. So like I said, they were kind of started teasing that staking would be coming pretty soon. And sure enough, they released an article a couple days ago, basically kind of giving some details. So, if you don't know, there's a 2.5% transaction fee on each NFT trade. And so what the deal is, I'm reading from the article. These fees will now be distributed to the CFT stakers and DAO fund with a ratio equivalent to 50-50. And there is at the moment a 1-day lockup period before being able to unstake your CFT. The fees are distributed in ICX, because that's basically what ICX, or that's what Craft runs on. They do plan to support being able to do sales in different currencies. So the rewards would be kind of distributed based on what exactly the trade kind of currency was. So also the staked CFT is what plays a role in Craft governance. So kind of similar to to BALN. If you stake it, it lets you have a say in the governance, and also even titles you to fees. And also they have kind of different tiers. So the more CFT you own, the bigger bonus you get. So it starts with, if you're at the bronze tier, which is basically, there's no condition there. You don't get any bonus. There's 5 tiers, so like a gold tier, which is 100K. CFT gets a 30% bonus. And if you have diamond tier, which is like 500,000 CFT, which is now worth like, I don't know, 50 grand or something like that, then you get a 50% bonus. So obviously it rewards people who have been able to, acquire more. And obviously the best, you can either buy CFT on balanced, or you can earn it by, if you're selling and buying on Craft. Wash trading is not allowed, and they have ways to detect that. So if you try to do that, it might not work out for you. And then also those who are putting, who have liquidity in the CFT, I think it's CFT SICX pool. If you stake that, you're also allowed to get some of that. And also there's CFT staking as a whole, which is what gives you the revenue. So certainly a nice step for Craft. The staking is live now. So if you have some CFT and would like to stake it, feel free to do so on the Craft website.
So I can go for what? All this time, that 2.5% fee has been charged. So where has that been going? Has it been housed in the DAO? Is it? I don't.
That's a good question. I think so. I don't know if it's necessarily the DAO itself, or maybe there's just a pot sitting there. I haven't. I'm sure that question's been asked in the Discord. I haven't been super vigilant in there as of late. But I imagine, either it'll be in the DAO, or maybe they'll find a way to retroactively distribute it or something like that.
Yeah. And one thing to call out, so staking has just launched, but the LP stuff has been going for a long time. So if you haven't already, you can provide an LP, and make sure from balance you come back to Craft and stake your LP to earn your Craft rewards. Otherwise you won't earn them. But overall, it's... I think, again, I have so many conversations these days. I forget if we brought this out. I think it's really cool what's happening in the Icon ecosystem. Yes, maybe ICX isn't going a million miles a minute, but we are starting to see ecosystem dApps each go through a phase of an explosive phase. And this is what happens in all the ecosystems. But it hadn't happened in Icon yet, and it's good to see. So we had GangsterBet, now we're having Craft, and who knows, at the moment the new kid on the block is Fin with its low supply. We could see a bit of an explosion there as well. And then hopefully lead back to our favourites, Balanced and Ohm, having a bit of a run. But overall, this is really good. It's I guess it's community money rotating in a way. But It's rotating because people are seeing that these applications are getting used, and Craft's been in the spotlight a lot, especially with Lux launching, Ethereum congested, people realizing, hang on, they're giving out ownership and fees, and Craft's been doing that from day one. So
Well, they had a good way of showing it is basically, and these numbers are a little bit out of date, but at the time it was like, if you had either bought or sold three of the gangsta bets, which their floor was like 1,000 or something like that, based on the amount of trading that happened that week, you would have earned like almost $1,000 worth of
yeah, yeah,
CFT essentially. So it's almost like a 3-for-1 deal to a certain extent. Again, don't try to watch trade those because they have ways to detect it.
yeah.
But again, just goes to show, it doesn't take all, obviously for some folks, $3,000 worth of 3,000 ICX worth of volume is not a small amount, but nonetheless, it just goes to show you don't need to, you don't need to do a whole lot necessarily in order to earn a decent amount of CFT. I guess, a decent enough return, especially when CFT's been at the prices it has been lately.
Agree. And if you weren't watching, I just dished my 50 claps. Every article matters, people. You get 50 claps a day, make them count. And especially when teams are taking the time to publish these detailed articles. Great news on Craft, loving its success, and hopefully we'll see a new project from you, IconFi, hint hint. So no pressure though.
Yeah.
Let's go next one. Okay, Optimus. We talked about this. So we have LP staking.
They did. Yep, it went live almost 12 hours ago from when we're talking now. So I actually woke up a little bit early just to kind of, in case there was some crazy initial price or something like that. I didn't want to necessarily miss that. But, as you can imagine, the main issue was just, it didn't go from zero liquidity to maximum liquidity in a second. It was just kind of a gradual uptick. But throughout now the liquidity is incentivized. So if you provide liquidity and stake your LP tokens into the Optimus protocol, you can earn FIN. Right now, there is looks like about $330,000 worth of liquidity. There's 164,000 BNUSD and about 5,600 FIN. So if you just figure the BNUSD is 2x, I think hopefully my math is mostly correct. So certainly not a small amount. Price of FIN has been. Let's see. So I mean, you get these weird things where there's no liquidity and someone buys a tenth of a fin for $116 or something like that. But basically, it's been hovering in the kind of I think it started in the mid 30s, crept up to the 40s. At one point, hit like 55. I think that's probably the high once we had actual liquidity there. Just a few minutes ago, we had the daily FIN distribution, so we saw a bit of a dip. So right now it's around 29. So, I don't know where, Ohm was interesting because it started low and then it went up. And BALN started high and went down. So we'll see how this one plays out. It's kind of hard to tell, but obviously if you stake your fin, you can receive fin. I think the APY on that is pretty good. And then staking LP tokens also pretty good as well. I don't know the exact percentages right now. I think at one point the LP tokens were like 9,000%. I don't think it's probably that high anymore. But and then I think staking FIN itself was like 360% or something. So they did adjust the tokenomics for Fin. They announced it a couple days ago. So I guess the key change, and mostly everything's the same. But basically, they took 2.5% from both the depositors and the liquidity providers and made it so 5% of the allocation goes to the Fin stakers. So in summary, we have 5% going to the people who are staking their Fin, 12.5% both to people who deposited as well as those who are providing liquidity unbalanced. 20% go to the Optimus worker tokens, 15% to an insurance and auditing fund, and 35% to the DAO. So if you consider, if you look at the the worker tokens, the insurance fund, the DAO, I don't imagine any of that's really on the market right now. Maybe some of the worker tokens are, but what it basically means is, let me make sure my math's right. Let's see, 70% is basically only potentially 30% or so is actually circulating kind of out in the potentially open market, and there was like. I think I saw 50,000 Fin were staked last time I checked this morning. So there's aren't a whole lot on the open market for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, no, low circulating supply going down the YN model. So let's see. I think that's just kind of cool because I'm interested to see how that low circulating supply and actual fair distribution model will work. Usually it's been quite high in terms of supply, so this is cool. Okay, great. Next up, oh no, IconFi.
Yeah, they had a couple little basically had to stop temporarily to stop deposits and withdrawals on the BSC/BTC as well as the BSC/ETE Ethereum wallets due to an issue with delayed deposit via Binance Smart Chains. It says all these issues have been resolved, but nonetheless, in case you noticed that little hiccup, that has been resolved by now. So I wanted to at least give you a little bit of good news there. I didn't see a whole lot of concern about it pop up on Twitter. Usually, usually when something like this happens, everyone you start to see more and more complaints or concerns or whatever it is. But in this case, it didn't seem like it was that serious. But nonetheless, good work from the IconFi team to resolve that pretty quickly.
Agree. Next up, we have Winable. So I've noticed they've been coming out with a little bit of content all of a sudden. Went into hibernation and they've kicked off their Discord. I even saw a post that apparently there's a lot of trading of the bottles happening on Craft.
Oh, interesting. I haven't checked that in a little bit. But
I'm
yeah,
an owner.
oh, yeah. I wanted to, but I think at the time it was more than I wanted to pay for. I'm not a big wine guy, so
Me
I was
either.
kind of like, I don't know if I could justify it. But it would have been, yeah, I guess in retrospect, interesting to kind of just be part of what that process looks like and everything like that. So cool to see that much. It's just nice little. For those who don't know, it's essentially own an NFT and it entitles you to an actual bottle of wine. If you exchange the NFT for the wine, the NFT gets burnt. So obviously, there's only it's a 1-to-1 ratio, and they will send you the wine, or get you the wine however they best can to be. I don't know how, depends on their shipping rules and everything like that. But nonetheless, pretty cool project. But yeah, they have a Discord now, so it looks like a good way to engage with the rest of the community on there. So certainly nice to see.
Yeah, agree. Next up, Karmadao. Karmadao came up with an update. Oh, hey, everyone knows I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, so we've talked a little bit about Karma. I did a kind of a write up on it, more on the protocol on liquidity. I haven't had a chance to read this article yet. I scanned through really quick. I really like the branding that they're using. By the way, it looks very polished and well thought out. So that's always nice to see. But I think Fez might have had some. You might have had some thoughts on this piece, perhaps.
Yeah, look, overall I'm excited. I think, as called out before, they're approaching this differently, where they're launching the POL model first rather than a reserve currency, and they're intertwining the POL model. So,
and that's basically you were kind of telling me that's kind of the reverse of what Olympus did.
Exactly.
Right?
Even time,
Yeah.
majority of your DeFi forks, they fork with first launching of the reserve currency, and they have an initial bootstrapping process, and then it floats, and then that's where the mania came in and the hype, and you saw these protocols prices for the tokens valued at ridiculous levels. Obviously, there's been a bit of a crash at the moment, and they're coming back down to reality, which has got people going, "Oh, I knew it was a pyramid scheme, etc." No, they're not. I could talk to it extensively, but Karmadao has gone at it differently. They're launching the POL model, and so very briefly, essentially, rather than you and I, like Finn, we just talked about that. So instead of going and us supplying liquidity and sitting there, what they will do is, say they strike up a deal in the background with Finn, we go and put the LP in, then we can take that LP and go to Karmadao and say they'll pay us out the Finn token at a 10% discounted rate to the market rate that vests in 5 days, and they buy that liquidity off us for the native token. So what it's trying to do is, the goal of it is, if the protocol owns its liquidity, it has more control over the how much liquidity is in the pools. And we know the more liquidity in the pools, the better it is for trading bigger amounts, the more stable it will be when people decide to dump the token or, trade out of it. So this model has proved to be quite successful on all the chains. So KarmaDAO's come along and said, yep, we're going to build this first. And what happens is when they've implemented this, and I've got this highlighted, is they're using this to kick off the reserve currency component. So as more protocols come in, Ohm, Balance, it can be IconBet, anyone with a token goes to partner with KarmaDAO that, yep, we want to set up a way so that people can sell their liquidity and it defaults and the protocols can take control of that liquidity. There's a small fee that KarmaDAO charge, right? And in that fee, what they'll do is a portion of it will go towards minting a token called bKarma. And at a certain point when they're ready to launch the reserve currency, and as a rule of thumb, your reserve currency is this: every part of, say, the Karma token circulating will have $1 backing it. Okay, so that is the goal initially, always, of a reserve currency. So the way they're bootstrapping it is by taking fees from the POL. They'll mint bKarma that goes to the people who actually use the protocol. So if we give our liquidity, we get bKarma. And when it's ready to launch, we get to swap the bKarma for 1 per 1. So 1 bKarma is worth 1 Karma, regardless of the market value. So you could be holding bKarma and 3 months later, Karma's value is, say, $10. You will still get, if you had 30, you would still get 30 Karma tokens. The trade is 1 for 1. So that's how they're going to bootstrap the reserve currency, which I think is awesome. It's cool. It's very much fair. In fact, that's completely consistent with everything on Icon, a fair distribution process. And then from there, let's see, I think the protocol owned liquidity is very different to the reserve currency and growing its treasury. But I think they've kind of modeled it in a way to benefit each other, which is kind of cool. So very excited to, if you haven't read the article, definitely read it. It's really well explained. And yeah, I hope that's helped paint the picture of what KarmaDAO is going to do.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a project I'm excited to follow, and look forward to them launching, hopefully in the near future.
Yeah.
So I think this is our final little piece here. We did get some nice little user experience updates on GangstaBet. So here, one that was been kind of a bit of demand is having a multi-claim of GBet. So if you have, like, I don't know, 10 GangstaBets or whatever, and it was kind of tedious to sit there and claim GBet for each one every, even if you did it every few days or whatever. Obviously clicking that much and authorizing that many transactions got tedious. So instead they have it so where you can just click on it once and it'll just say, claim all the available GBet that's still available. So few more changes. There's a kind of a next GBet when it'll be available. There's a timer. The marketplace is now sorted on a default price of low to high, which I think is what everyone was. I think whenever people went to the marketplace, that was the first thing they did. What they wanted to see what the floor was. It also shows you the amount of accumulated GBet available on the wallet page, and also on the activity page, there's a at the top now it shows floor price, number of owners, the highest trade thus far, and the amount of volume traded. So just kind of some nice little upgrades on the user interface and things like that. And so just a nice little upgrade and some features that I think people were hoping for and looking for that the team got implemented.
Yep. No, it was a good list of features that got put in, and they're constantly innovating. Great so far. And obviously they're on CoinGecko and market cap, which I've got on the screen, so that's cool as well. More of Icon projects built on Icon is creeping in there, which is good to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's it, Icongrapher. That's another week of a lot of news. lot of good news.
There are some. There is a new round of CPS projects that I want to go into next week because it is. I think some of our. I think it was one of the more, at least on my first glance, one of the more impressive lineups we've had thus far. Just the kind of stuff that I thought would be helpful and useful. So I look forward to talking through those a bit more in the next episode.
So is this the new round, or you mean the one that's just passed, as in the one that's just been approved? So with
I can't remember whether it's. I can't remember which timeline it is. I just saw. I saw some. I think TJ had a tweet thread on some of the various projects.
Yeah. No, that's right. Last one. Cool. Yeah, looking forward to it. I think that'll be a good one to talk through. There was a lot of good stuff. Cool. Okay, everyone. Look, thanks for listening. As always, do not financial advice. Do your own research. We're just sharing our views here. Lastly, new YouTube channel. Please like, share, subscribe. Last video we had like 500-600 views, 30 likes, and yeah. So based on the views, the new channel should have that many subscriptions. So if you're listening, please give it a subscribe. It'll go a long way in growing our audience as well. So really appreciate the community's help with that. Thank you everyone for listening. Take care.
See ya.